Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, 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 my lovelies, and welcome back to another episode of Corpse Garden Chronicles. With us today is Jenni Lynn. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am blessed. I got to have 2 Easter parties with 2 beautiful children, and I get to talk with you about one of my most favorite things in the entire universe.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I can't wait to get into this conversation.
What point in your life did you decide that paranormal investigation was going to be like so important?
I think I've kind of always known, since I was a little kid, like I've always had different thoughts and ideas and things like that, and experiences, like small experiences growing up and things like that. And it wasn't until 2000, actually, when I moved into an apartment and strange things started happening. So then I was finally able to, get on that computer and start doing my own research finally after all these years of kind of knowing there was something going on. Yeah, and just looking into the paranormal, and seeing what was out there and why, these things were happening in my apartment. And then I stumbled across this group in Philadelphia, and they were running a ghost hunt at Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'd like to do that. So I went by myself because all my other friends were scared. So I went by myself, and yeah, I had a great experience with them and had a couple things happen there, and that got me hooked. So that's been my life since the year 2000.
That is amazing. And I know how you feel about having a haunted house. I have had some weird things happen to us. Was there a particular experience that still crosses your mind today?
From that apartment?
From any point in your life?
Oh,
Paranormal experience of any type?
I mean, yeah, that would be at Pennhurst. That's the one that just really, really got me. And I said, I have to work here. Even though I've loved it before that, but um, I had gone with a group of my friends. We had a private in 2012, and the things we experienced that night, I don't think I haven't been able to match it since. I mean, I've had a lot of really crazy experiences, but I don't think any really, that one always just sticks out in my mind. Do you want me to go into it or like wait a little bit or?
Yes, please
Okay.
tell us about it. I have like so many questions. I figured let's go through them as we go through.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, we were at a private at Pennhurst 2012, and we were, excuse me, we were up on the third floor of Mayflower, and we were all at one end of the hall where there's like a little day room, and we had set a ball up in the middle, like about halfway down the hall. And I was holding my friend's camera, and I finally I put it down on the floor. It was getting a little heavy. So we were kind of all chit chatting at that point. And then all of a sudden, we just hear like this weird noise, poof, 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 poof. And we're like, we all stopped, like, what was that? And I said, it sounded like the ball that's down the hall. And, so basically we figured, I said, oh my God, the camera's on the floor. I said, please let it be pointed down that way. So we picked up the camera, we rewound it, and here the ball lifted up off the ground and was thrown across the hallway. There was nobody there. And it like, excuse me, it bounced and rolled across the hall and then like stopped dead. And then it came back out into the middle of the hall and started rocking back and forth as if like a little kid was playing with it. And we just started screaming, jumping up and down. We were like, oh my God, we got the Holy Grail. Like wind can't do that. Like there was no explanation for a ball just actually lifting up and flying across the hallway. And then later that night, we ended up in one of the basements. And our guide for the night was telling us the story about a maintenance worker named Skippy. Well, his real name was Clyde, but he used to do horrible things to the patients down there. So, a couple of them started provoking as we shouldn't have. And next thing you know, like in the shadows, I see this thing fly across the ceiling. And it was almost like just split second, but it was so fast. And then we just hear smash. And then I'm screaming. I'm like, oh my God, I'm covered in glass. So the long metal light with the light bulb, one of those office lights, exploded. And then the whole metal fixture just came crashing down about a foot from me. And we're just trying to assess like what happened. And now when we had gone in there, like the floor was like clean, there was no debris like where we were standing and everything. So when we were looking through the debris of this broken light fixture on the floor, we found a piece of pipe, and it was like a thick pipe. And we're like, that wasn't there before. So we concluded that was what, we all saw fly across the ceiling and hit that light. So it was thrown from across the room and caused it to explode and come crashing down.
That is mind blowing and so wild. I love that.
It was like, probably the best night of my paranormal life.
And you got footage, and you had to see it happen. That is amazing. How did you learn to investigate? Did you have like a mentor, or did you just learn as you went?
I basically learned as I went along. Like I said, when I first started kind of researching into things, I would learn about different things that people were using back in that time. So So I'm probably going to date myself, but they said, you could use recorders and things like that. So I picked up a little, I don't know if you remember those little cassette tapes, the little tiny ones, one of those recorders.
I do.
And yeah, so I would just leave that out, and try to listen back. But like, again, I was still kind of new, so I didn't know exactly what I was listening for. So I don't really know if I got anything. But, and then when I went on that very first ghost hunt at Fort Mifflin, they were very good. They told us about equipment, and I got to use, a K2 meter for the first time. I forget what else they had. But I mean, at least I was exposed to some of the stuff, so I kind of knew about it. And then and then what was it? I think 2013. I'd been watching Ghost Adventures 2 when that first came out, and they were doing an event at Waverly Hills. So again, I'm like, I have to go. Like, I want to meet Zach and Aaron and Nick. And so again, went by myself and drove out to Kentucky. And I had met a girl online. We kind of networked and found each other. So I ended up meeting her at the hotel, and we became great friends immediately. And we had an amazing weekend at Waverly. Again, learned a lot of stuff from the guys and the other people that were involved in the event. They were very helpful in letting us know, how to do EVPs and things like that. So it was just a fun event. Learned a lot. But yeah.
That is cool. Do you have a favorite set of equipment you use as you do your investigation?
Equipment wise, I love my Geoport. I'm a little biased. So I could try to explain it if people out there don't really know what a Geoport is. It could also be called a what else do they call it? I don't know what it is. Oh, like a portal box or something. So it's basically like an SB7 spirit box that cycles through radio stations, and spirits are said to be able to manipulate through the white noise and be able to speak through these passing channels really fast. So what this Geoport does is kind of cut out a lot of that static. So you're picking up more of the voice, and you can hear it a little bit more clearly. And one of my friends was gracious enough to make me one, which is actually made from the wood from Rockwell building at Pennhurst. So it's like extra special. So yeah,
wow.
It's got that energy built right in it. So I like to use that. With the whole spirit thing and being from Pennhurst, made out of that wood, it is a little finicky. She doesn't like to work in some locations. So sometimes it's hard to get, some responses through it. But that's my favorite piece. I try to experiment with different things. I'm not too against anything. I think everything has its place and a use. I know a lot of people are like, well, this isn't reliable, but I mean, everything's experimental, of course, and you have to take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, do your debunking, think of logical reasons why this could be happening or why this cat ball is lighting up, this and that. Like, you have to use your brain. And whatever works for you, whatever you feel like you're getting responses with the most, go with it. Some people do like those cat balls, and they use them constantly and everywhere. and they can be an interesting tool. I will say, because I mean, you do have, visual, you could see it lighting up, and it's touch activated, so you have to actually like hit it or touch it for it to light up. So, um, as far as other things, what was I gonna? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Well, I just ordered a tripwire, so I'm excited to get to use one. I've seen them used, but a lot of people don't seem to get a lot of activity with them. So I was like a little, but hopefully I'll get a lot of activity with it.
Oh yeah, and you're in a place that, according to the last special I watched, the activity had been amping up, at least at that time. I don't know if it's still really active now.
Yeah, I mean, Pennhurst, she's an interesting campus. There's periods where, yeah, it's just like nonstop. Like they're very communicative and they're playing with, the cat balls and the REM pods, and, you're hearing voices with your own ears. And I mean, it can be crazy, but then there's periods where it's just so quiet and you're like, what's wrong? What's going on here? Where are they? I mean, it just goes in waves. And people always ask me, oh, is nighttime, more active, or after 3 a.m. the witching out? I said at Pennhurst it doesn't matter. I mean, you could come during the day and get stuff. You can come at night. It just depends, on how I think the energy is. I think it depends on your energy as well, the people around you. Maybe the weather could be a factor, but yeah, I would say it's still consistent, I would say. It's just some days are more than others.
Okay. What has been something that you've learned investigation wise that newer investigators don't know that may help them better their understanding?
I'm sorry, you cut out in the beginning part?
What is something that you learned investigation wise that would help new investigators better their understanding of how it works?
Oh, okay. Well, the first thing that came to my mind is, a lot of newer, especially newer ghost hunters, they watch these shows, an hour-long show, but you got to realize they're there for however long, like 12 hours, 14, whatever. And then they're editing that footage down into a 45-minute show. So of course they're going to put all that really cool stuff in there. And I think a lot of people assume that when you go to a location, like boom, like things are going to start flying across the room. People are levitating off the floor, like things. And I just try to tell even like my groups, when I get my groups at Pennhurst, be patient. If you start feeling something, go towards it. If you walk past the door and say, I kind of feel like I need to go in there, go in there. Sit down in the corner and just feel it out, be patient, let them come to you, and they will, in a lot of these locations. A lot of it is just, like I said, it's like fishing, you put your lure in there and then, yeah, you have to kind of sit and wait to get the big bite, So I think that would be one of the more important things is sometimes you're not going to get activity. It could be just a quiet night, but you have to respect that, And again, I have my own theories, but I feel like it's just like an energy thing. If they have enough energy to do that, more intelligent spirits, they just might not want to, that night or something. It's kind of like how you are in life is how you are in death. So I don't want to talk to anybody today. I'm going to hide in my room. So, there's a couple of things to keep in mind like that. And know your spirits, know the history of the place you're going to, understand maybe like what they went through, how were they treated, um, what was the place, what was it used for, like even prisons, you have to keep all that in mind, like these might have been dangerous criminals, and watch your wording and your language and stuff. Like it's not all, ghost adventures going in there and hey spirits, and provoking all the time. Again, it's like you would speak to anyone. You're going to talk to them how you talk to your mom, your brother, your sister.
I think that is actually something my mother and I were talking about earlier. She had talked about how a lot of these people keep forgetting that these were human beings like we are now. They had wants, needs, preferences, and she was afraid that people would come in and disturb them and not give them the due respect they deserve.
Yep. Yeah, we try to tell the groups that come in to Pennhurst that, please be respectful. They'll respond more if you are nice to them because they didn't get that when they were alive. So if you're very, like kind of more loving and careful about how you treat them, they're more receptive to that, so they might come out and want to communicate more. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of lost for words, but and it could be emotional too, when you start to think about, what some of these people have gone through. Oh, that was what I was gonna say. Like with our spirits, at Pennhurst, you know, a lot of times like people get rocks thrown at them, or they might get their hair tugged or something, and they're like, "Oh my God, demons!" I'm like, "No, no, no, no! You got to remember who you're dealing with." I said a lot of these patients were mentally, physically disabled. They couldn't speak. So, if you feel like you're getting tugged on, or, and we have had people get scratched. But if you think about that in life, if you can't speak, how are you going to communicate? You're going to grab people like, hey, hey, I'm trying to talk to you. So you're going to be grabbing and scratching at somebody. Maybe they're trying to communicate. You might hear a growl. That's not a demon. A lot of them did use vocalizations such as grunting, or groaning, Um, and yeah, like with the rock throwing, is a big one. I said, think about it this way. Yeah, they might be trying to get you to leave or scare you out of there. I said, but think about this, like if they were alive and they were in that room and you go walking into that room, they don't know who you are. And depending on how they were treated by the staff, they're probably scared of a lot of people. So if some new stranger comes in, oh my God, who are you? Get out of here. Like, leave me alone. So, I mean, I kind of get it, you know?
Um, she had also asked, do you feel like new spirits that weren't originally there have come
um, yeah, I think we do get kind of mixed energies. um, how do you explain it? I know there's different theories and thoughts on it and things like that, but I think if you come into a location, with bad juju already, like I kind of goes along too with the stone tape, or what is it called? The stone tape theory. Is that it? Is that what I'm so horrible
I
at terminology.
sure. No, I don't think you're horrible at all. We're both people learning how this works, but also you have different experiences than I do. And your experiences are so worth learning from. And no, I have no idea what it's called either, to be honest.
Where like the energy kind of imprints into a place. It can get like stuck
Yeah.
in the walls or into a piece of furniture or something like that. So you're bringing your energy,
Residual.
so a little bit rubs off. You're leaving a mark everywhere you go. So I think and people that do go to other locations, such as myself, I've been to a ton of other locations, and I've often felt that I've brought different energies home. And so who's to say I'm not bringing that to Pennhurst or mixing with them and, hanging out there for a while and things like that. So yeah, I definitely think, that we've had different energies come and go that weren't ours. And you can tell too, I've often felt sometimes that this isn't normal. Like, I don't think this is ours. I've even said that, like, this is not typical, Pennhurst activity. So, yeah, I definitely think that's possible.
Do you go to other locations often to investigate?
I mean, I would say, yeah, at least maybe at least two side trips a year. Yeah, I have a small group of friends that I go with. We'll try to plan one or two trips together, maybe one springtime and then maybe another towards the fall or winter, as long as the place has heat. um, so, yeah, this year we have Hospital on College Hill booked and Harriman Hospital in Tennessee, and that'll be in December.
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
Oh,
What
yeah.
has been some of your favorite places to go and see, and what experiences made them so memorable?
Um, my second favorite place, well, I don't know, they're kind of tied. I love Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. I am a hospital
Oh,
and
yeah.
asylum person. Prison, we can get into that another time, but yeah, hospitals, asylums, things like that. I love it, and I love the architecture and all of that stuff. Now, Trans-Allegheny, you want to talk architecture? I mean, if you've seen it, you know it.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is beautiful, and they are doing amazing work, by the way, restoring it to its grandeur. How it looked back then. They have an amazing museum. They have just rooms set up with clothing and artifacts, and they even have a room with books that you can actually sit, and they have all the records in there. And if you want to look through the records, you could sit in there as long as you want, as long as I mean, you have to buy like a tour ticket, I think, but you could sit in there and look through records, things like that. I mean, it's amazing. But that place, I've been there 5 times, and I really want to try and get back there this year again too, because the last time we were there in September, had another incredible experience there. But always something at Trans-Allegheny that keeps me coming back. Like, the activity level is insane, and just like I said, just the building itself. And then when you look at the history, it's very similar to Pennhurst. The types of patients were different, but the way they were treated was the same. And I mean, it was sad and it was horrible. So you just picture all of that trauma, that negativity, that sadness, that's all trapped in that building. So yeah, you have a big mixture of
Yeah,
stuff.
it is.
So yeah, I always recommend Trans-Allegheny if you can. It's amazing. Last time I went, we were up on the 4th floor like that. I call it the attic. And we were down at the very end of the one side, and I had set up some cat balls going down the middle. And then at the very end, I don't know if you've seen those laser balls. It's like a little ball, and it has the little lasers. And when you touch it, you know, it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Plasma ball. There we go.
I don't remember the. Yeah, I
Get
didn't
them
know
at
the name of
Spencer.
it.
But had one of those down the end, and we had the recorder going, whatnot. It was just me, my friend Skylar, and my friend Casey. The only three in that ward, in that section. So I finally, the plasma ball started acting up or whatever. So I went to go down to check on it. As I'm walking down, I just had my flashlight pointed at the floor. I see this white thing go like ahead of me. And at first I thought, well, maybe I kicked a cat ball and it was just rolling or something. So as I shined my flashlight at it, I froze, and it was like a little mist going across the floor. Excuse me. And again, I'm just like, oh, what? And then it just started to manifest. It stopped and then started coming upwards, and then it started to like, I can't even describe it, like curled, almost like a wave. And I just went, guys.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, what? And then I looked back down, and it was gone. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't know what I just saw, but it was starting to manifest, and then it disappeared. And then my friend Casey behind me had his camera on a chair pointed down the hall. But I said, I guarantee you, my luck, he was too far behind or too far down the hall, or I was in the way. So I said, you better go home and check that footage. If I could see it on camera, that would have been amazing. But no, he was too far back. He didn't catch it. So I was really bummed.
That is amazing.
Yeah. We got a ton of EVPs. Oh my gosh. Casey wore a body cam, which never thought of using one of those. So I'm also interested in getting one.
I'm neither.
Yeah, he just, wears it on his chest like, a police officer would or whatever. And the amount of EVPs that we got, he's still going through audio and picking them out one by one. And I'm just like, wow. We got women talking, saying hello, and I'm here, and like all this stuff. I was just blown away at the amount. Yeah. So, and then there's another area in the basement by, the lobotomy recovery room. We were going through this little nurse's station, and it was my friend Skylar, then me, and then him behind me. And Skylar went in before me, and she stopped, and I said, what's wrong? And she's like, my bag was like, felt like my bag was tugged on. So we're looking, and oh, okay. So like we kept going, and then once I got to that same spot, I had a ponytail with a braid hanging down, and it, I felt like it got flicked, and I stopped. I'm like, in case he's like, you got your hair tugged? I'm like, yep, because I'm, touching my hair. And he managed to catch that on his body cam. So I'm glad he got that.
That is so cool.
Mm-hmm. Another favorite is Hillview Manor, which is out near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've been there quite a few times. And again, it's a little bit different than Trans-Allegheny or Pennhurst. It's a little bit calmer. I don't feel any real negativity there. I think whatever's there is just chilling, So it's a different vibe. But again, but you still get like activity. And every time I've been there, it's always something. You know, they have one room where this little boy is said to hang out, and there's toys in there and stuff. We've had toys go off when we know that we shut them off, and they'll just be going off, and we're down the hallway. So we have to go running back and check the thing, like, and it's still off. And I'm like, well, how could this be going off if it's off? The shadow people. The last time we were there, I think it was a year ago, and I went down the one, I think it's the north hallway, and I passed this room, and I happened to look in, and they still have like the curtains hanging, like where they would hang them between the two beds, like in a hospital or something. It looked like somebody was like kind of half standing there behind the curtain. And I froze, and I was like, I don't know what I'm seeing here. Can somebody else please come down and confirm? So a couple of my friends came, and they all, oh my God, they all saw it. I said, thank God. Because I thought maybe I was just seeing things. And they're like, no, there's like a shape. Like you could see the head, the shoulders, but it was just black, kind of. Not total black, like kind of gray, I guess you would say. But yeah, just upper torso, just kind of peeking out from behind the curtain. And we're just all standing there staring at this thing. And then finally, like, I guess we must have been talking, and then when we looked again, it was gone, of course. And then as we turned, the nurse's station is right there, and my friend had a cat ball sitting up on top. So when she turned, the cat ball went flying off the nurse's station. And I saw her arm, and she did not hit that. She's like, no, I didn't. And I said, no, I know, because I saw you. No, that flew off the nurse's station somehow. So yeah, that night was pretty crazy as well.
Okay. Working at Pennhurst, how would you describe the energy there and think how it has affected you viewing the investigating?
The energy at Pennhurst is more somber. It's sad sometimes. It's very overwhelming, very overpowering. Myself, even sometimes still, like, again, I think just that energy just shifts all the time, and you just get hit with so many different things. I've had people come and like, oh God, I feel so sad, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's a lot to take in, just looking at the sheer size of this place and imagining what it must have been like, to how it feels when you're there, that palpitating energy. And again, I still feel it all the time. There's times where, yeah, I'm just like, I, being like an empath sensitive, I just kind of get in the zone, and I get kind of down, and, don't really want to talk to anybody. Just want to be in my own head, kind of energy. But yeah, you definitely feel it. But I mean, I've learned to navigate it though over the years. I just know that it's them trying to communicate in some way, like me feeling their energy so I can understand it. And yeah, and like you said, it does help with the investigations, because then like what I touched on earlier is how to kind of go into that investigation. Like, okay, well, this person, maybe the energies around me are sad. So you want to kind of approach them like, hey, is there anything we can do for you? Or, if someone's feeling mad and, throwing stuff or whatever, you could try to de-escalate it, say, hey, what's wrong? Why are you so mad? Like, come on, have a seat, talk to us, like, it's all in your approach and how you feel. And yeah, I always tell people too, go with that energy, whatever you feel, go with it and investigate off of that, because that has helped me in the past.
Where do you like to be most at Pennhurst?
Where do I like? What area do I like the most?
Yeah.
I would say Rockwell Tunnel. Um, so there's a area of tunnel that goes. Well, I don't know if you'd probably have to see the campus, like maybe in a picture or something, but it goes to where our dietary building was, all the way back, kind of even into the woods. A very long stretch of tunnel, but it's all underneath the catwalks there, and that's where I've had probably the bulk of some of my best stuff down there, from like full on conversations when nobody else is even near the tunnel. You can hear footsteps like from heavy boots to what sounds like a woman walking in high heels. We can only assume like maybe it was a nurse. And, she used this to, go from one building to another. Um, I've been touched. Um, I'm trying to think if anything's ever been thrown down there. Oh, like little pebbles and things. Nothing major on that front. But yeah, we've smelled cigarette smoke down there. So we're assuming like maybe the staff to go down there, and that was where they took their smoke breaks or something. Yeah, we've heard little kids' voices, hissing sounds, banging, obviously. Yeah, there was a couple times like we would, be banging on the doors down there. You walk away and then bang, 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 you'll hear it right back. And I'm like, what the heck? So, what stuff happens down there?
How would you start a tour with the guests that come to investigate or learn about the history? Where do you start?
Our tours actually start with, we actually have history tours separate from paranormal tours. So we actually have history guides that are specifically for that. Um,
Okay.
so usually when you sign in and everybody's situated, they will take the big group around the campus and give them a little bit of the history tour. And then about an hour later, that's when they split up into smaller groups. So I'll get anywhere probably from 10 to 12 people. And um, usually I'll kind of lead off with something like, you know, um, if you guys have any questions, about maybe something they didn't cover on the history tour or anything, just come, I'm, an open book here. I do know a lot of the history myself, obviously. But yeah, or paranormal, like you can come and ask me. So I always leave that door open. And yeah, I do get a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, well, what happened in this? Who stayed in this building, or what was that used for, or what did they do here?" So, I mean, I love that. I love that, answering questions about that stuff. So, I get to add little tidbits of history throughout the night, throughout the ghost hunt, which is pretty cool. And then that kind of goes with if they're having experiences too. So it's kind of cool. So they're getting little tidbits of history and little tidbits of like activity. And that always makes me so happy because it's like they're getting the full experience. So, um, yeah, so that's kind of how our night goes, and I do try to interact with everybody, as many people as I can. I'll go around checking on people. If they seem kind of down or if they're not really getting much, like I'll kind of focus on them because we get like anywhere from like experts to beginners. So I'll stick with them and say, hey, come on, let's go sit down. Let's do, EVP session, or, let's put out the REM pods and see if we get anything. And a lot of times that actually ends up being good because, I think the spirits, they're so used to me. So a lot of times, yeah, they'll come to us guys because they're used to us, and that'll amp up the activity and give them an extra special experience that they can take home with them.
where is your favorite place to leave the tours in? I know you have your favorite place. You like to do your own investigations. Where, when you do the tours, which is it still the tunnel or is it another part of the campus?
So when we do our public, and we have our little groups of people, we do actually rotate. So we'll have Mayflower Building, Devon Building, Rockwell Tunnel, the infirmary. Yeah, 4 areas that we rotate. We stay about an hour in each. Um, so we give them a little taste of each each little area. Um, there were Quaker lockdowns, they were calling them. So there was a different night if you came, you actually got Quaker Building added in for a little bit of an extra charge or whatever it was. But so then it would be 5 areas. Um, so I try to just treat each area in that sense equally. I go over what the typical activity level is in each area. Um, Kind of give them a rough estimate of like what they could experience in there. You know, like okay, like this building. Here's where we see mostly like shadow people, or you know what I mean, like stuff like that. Um, but when I have a group, it's I have to kind of put my favorite aside for a minute, and just kind of give them a well-rounded evening.
Okay. I've had an experience that I wonder if others have had. Have you ever just seen like an arm or a head or leg walking by? Because I've randomly just seen an arm in my hallway and I was confused.
Like a full like flesh
Oh,
color.
you could tell that it was a human. You could tell how tall the person would be. You could tell they were wearing a white t-shirt that went down to like their elbow. You could almost see like there was a print coming off up to the shoulder, but that is the only part of this apparition I saw. It was like almost like you standing there, but I don't know if others had ever had an experience like this that I've had.
Um, I do know I haven't experienced it yet, so I'm kind of bummed. But other people have seen like doppelganger type, entities walking around the campus. We have a couple guides that work there, and people have seen them on the catwalk or walking across the courtyard, but they're not even there, or they're, somewhere totally far on the other end of the campus. And it's like, wait,
Oh,
weren't you just over there? And they're like, no, I was up at the infirmary, or whatever the case may be. And I'm just like, you have a doppelganger? That's not fair. Nobody's ever seen me, and I've never seen one of them. Um, so yeah, people see actual physical people, but it's not them. Um, Usually, typically, what I see is the shadows, like the dark, figures, shadow people moving, uh, or they might seem a little whitish, you know, almost misty, kind of, but not full on like skin, like
mhm.
features, things like that. No, so that's pretty awesome that you did.
Where at where at Pennhurst have you seen um a an apparition that just stood out in your memory?
Hmm. I'm trying to think. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Um. Wow. It's kind of weird when people ask you a question because your mind starts racing through all the through all the memory decks in there, and oh my gosh,
Oh yeah, and
trying
I'm trying to like not be like overwhelming or anything because hopefully from that one story you can tell, no, I fully believe you and everything you're saying, and I'm just excited to talk to you about it. But yeah,
yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh my gosh, one that sticks out to me. Hmm. I mean, I know I've gotten pictures as well. I mean, that's pretty much what's coming to my mind. I know that's not really what you asked, but
well, I'll
um,
take the picture. Which one was like the one that your brain goes back to most? It's like this thought of I want more like this.
so yeah, again, the pictures were down in Rockwell Tunnel. Now this was, I would say, about a year apart. I had taken a picture down the end of the hallway, and again, I tell my group after this experience, I tell them like, if you take a picture and it's like black or dark at the end, like, and you think, oh, I can't see nothing, don't delete it yet. Go home, play with the brightness, lighten it up a little, zoom in at, the darkness. The things you could possibly see are interesting because I took the picture, and again, like I said, it seemed very dark at the end of the tunnel there. And when I got home, brightened it up a little bit, zoomed in on the little doorway that was down there, you can see perfect, like head, shoulders, upper torso. And I'm like, and it was just a person like kind of standing there. And I'm like in the darkness, like hiding in the dark. I was like, wow, okay. And I know there was nothing. I mean, I worked there. I know there was nothing down there. There was no discoloration of the walls or any kind of mannequins or nothing down there. And then a year later, during COVID, I was given a tour and I'm standing there, and a friend of mine took a picture of me with my group. And again, I'm always checking my pictures now after that. So I kind of zoom in on different areas and see, like, well, maybe there could be something hiding there. So right behind me, I noticed again a head, shoulders, and then it hit me. Oh my God. It was the same thing I got a year ago. So I'm like, this has to be maybe it's the same entity or same person wandering that section of the tunnel. And they were behind me that day because it was, like I said, the same shape, and that was the same thing you saw. It was like just the torso, shoulders, head, and like maybe like half an arm, like down to the elbow.
That is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I Okay, Mayflower building. How do you start the conversation and the tour there before you break them off in their uh group?
So usually, I'll tell them, well, that whole campus was mostly a male um, centered. Those cottages were mostly for male dormitories. Over the years, it changed, but for the most part, it was mostly males. So, um, but for some reason, we have a little girl in Mayflower, and her name is Emily. Um, Now, years ago, a psychic came in and she had said that she felt Emily in there. And and people always ask me too, like, well, why would a girl be in here then if it was a male dormitory? Well, it turns out the psychic said it's because her brother, George, was also a patient there. And they both passed away there. He crossed over, but she didn't. And she's looking for him. So I'm like, okay, that would make sense then. Why she's always in that building. She's probably looking for him. So yeah, I'll tell them about Emily. I mean, she's very cute, very playful. But you kind of got to hit it at the right time. Like, you got to kind of find her. Um, she doesn't just, come out on command or anything like that. You just got to be in the right place at the right time. Um, and she will talk. I've asked her, like, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? And I had my geoport going. She's like, chicken. And I'm like, oh. So that was pretty cute. Um, and then I tell them another big spirit that we have in Mayflower is the basement. We have a spirit named King, or likes to be called King. Um, and he supposedly is a janitor down there. And he liked his cigars, cigarettes. He liked to play cards, drink his whiskey. And, so people will bring trigger objects when they hear of this story on other shows and things like that. So they might bring cards or little, empty bottles of like liquor to leave around as trigger objects. What else? Yeah, I just fill them in. Third floor is one of the most active floors in that building. And it's one of those where I try to encourage if they can. I know it's kind of hard when it's a public, but if you can sit at one end of the hall and just sit there and be quiet, again, just be patient, sit down, enjoy your surroundings, get to feel everything. And you'll start hearing like doors shutting and opening, drawers. It sounds like somebody shuffling papers in a drawer. We've heard bottles clanking or bags being dragged across the floor, like all kinds of things. People coming up and down the stairs when there is nobody, so I just tell them, just go down the end of the hall. And then when you watch down the hall too, all those doors, you'll see people peeking out. You might see a shadow person go across, things like that. Like, yeah, it's pretty insane up there. But yeah, that's what I usually try to cover. And then, and then after we're done with that area, they come to me and I'll be like, so how did it go? And then I'll just get their input and see if they got any of the similar things that we get.
Okay. What about Quaker?
Quaker's an interesting one. For me, now, hey, it's different for everybody, every guide, every customer, person that comes. But for me, the first and second floors of Quaker are pretty quiet. But the basement, that's where my buddy Skippy is, the one that threw the pipe and hit the light. That's where he hangs out. I try not to go into that too much, depending on my, I get the vibe from my group. And if I feel like, I have some people that are a little bit scared, I might not go into that too much. I don't want to scare them or anything. But yeah, I usually try to, I don't know. It's like I said, it's hit or miss. If I tell them, I just say, be careful. Like, he likes to throw things, but I think overall, I don't think he can hurt anybody. He hasn't really done anything to anybody in a while, so. But he doesn't like women and alpha males, like really tough guys. If you're using a spirit box or a geoport or something, like, oh, he'll come out and tell you if you don't like it. He'll start cursing at you. I've been called every name in the book. So I'm used to it. I'm just like, whatever. Yeah. I actually laugh at him. I'm just like, okay, dude.
Do people get to see Pershing?
Pershing?
Yeah, I think it's called Pershing.
No. So that building is up on the upper campus. Well, former upper campus. That whole area up there is now owned by the VA Center, the Veterans Center.
Okay.
They have some kind of military. That building itself has some sort of military thing in it, like they rent it or whatever, and have their offices. So I wish. I would love to get in there.
Okay. I don't know fully. I know the names of the buildings, but I also don't know what's happening in them. So I'm not trying to like trundle somewhere I'm not supposed to.
Oh
So
no.
what buildings do okay, let's start with the what buildings do you guys so I know you said you do the Mayflower and the Quaker and the one tunnel. But I don't know about Philadelphia or Devon or Keystone or
Okay.
Place.
Yep. So Devon is another building that we have access to. That is the largest building on campus, and it's sort of shaped like an H. So there's two wings that come down, and then one that goes in the middle between. So it's a pretty unique building. It's pretty cool. Um, so over the last couple of years, they've taken the first floor of Devon and kind of remodeled it, I guess you would say, and now we have what's called the speakeasy. They turned it into like more of like an event space. So now when we have our events like Paracon, and even the haunted attraction, they made it so when you come out of the haunted attraction, you end up in the speakeasy, and there's a bar and a stage. We'll have period actors, on stage singing, period music and things like that, to kind of get you in back in the olden times. Um, we might have like hors d'oeuvres and stuff. People could sit and mingle and talk and snack and things like that during Paracon. That's a big one. That's where the celebrities will hang out, and people who pay for that uh, ticket can go in there and mingle with the celebrities. But we for paranormal, we do have access to the basement and second floor. Second floor,
Okay.
again, like I said, there was male dormitories, and it's pretty interesting up there. They're more chill, I think, in Devon. A lot of the spirits, they know we're there. I think half the time they just don't want to be bothered. That's kind of how I feel. Um, but if you can get them in the right mood, we've been a couple of the guys like to do hide and seek. They'll put cat balls in the different areas of a room or in the one shower area. For some reason, we get a lot of activity in the big shower area. I don't know why, but they'll hide the cat balls and they'll say, "Okay, when we find you, light up the cat ball," and they'll walk around, and then like a cat ball will light up in a certain area. And so I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," because I've never done that before. Um,
Neither have I. That's new to me.
right? It's a neat idea. Um, so then you get down to the basement, and it's a whole nother beast down there. Takes on a whole nother vibe. Uh, so the one end of the hallway, like you go down the stairs, and then you can turn right or left. So if you go right, you're going to come to like a more narrower hallway, and then that comes to a T. So you can either go right, left, or straight to the stairwell. I call it the crossroads. Um, that T, that X, I don't know if there's a portal there or some sort of vortex or something, but that little corner area is just a weird feeling. Like you just start getting overwhelmed with like nervousness, anxiousness, getting that like scared feel like, oh my, like something bad's gonna happen, and you just can't pinpoint it though. And then if you sit there too, like a lot of times I'll just take people and sit there and set up different equipment around us and down the hall a little bit. And if you just listen, like, yeah, you'll hear doors slamming, footsteps. And at the end of the one hall, there's a doorway with a little bit of light coming through. So if you focus down there, you'll see something like black out the light. Um, So yeah, that area of Devon basement is pretty cool. And then if you go down like I said, down the other end is where Candyland is. If you know anything about Pennhurst and the Devon building, there's an area called Candyland. And what that was a play area for the residents when it was like the winter months and they couldn't go outside. They were able to go down there and play. So it's painted, with murals on the walls of the children, um, cotton candy, ice cream, like a circus themed. So the paint is all still there. There's still an original like basketball hoop up on the one pole, and so you get a lot of like childlike vibes down there. People bring a lot of like stuffed toys, little trucks and toys, things like that to, try to interact with them in that room because that's probably what they did there. Play with all different kinds of items. But yeah, like I said, it's a whole different energy, all like overall down in that basement than the rest of the building. And then we have Philadelphia. We used to be able to go in the basement, but I think they stopped that a couple of years ago. I think because it just floods really bad, and they get a lot of rain, and like even when the snow melts and things like that. So I think it just gets too flooded, so they just kind of cut that out. They have the infirmary, which is kind of up the hill a little bit from the campus. So it's a little bit of a walk, but the infirmary is pretty cool. Got a couple cool things up there. That's where when the hospital was still standing, it was demolished last year, but it was connected by an overpass tunnel into the infirmary. So they would go straight from the hospital if they had like a procedure done and then go recover. But years and years ago, it was used as a tuberculosis quarantine unit as well. And if you ever go there, ever seen it or anything like that, you'll see like the big wide open windows. And that's what they did, for tuberculosis patients. They thought that the fresh air treatment would help the lungs. So that's pretty evident. Again, it's a unique building. It's one of probably the better structurally, I guess. The bones are amazing in this building. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. I don't get too much up there though, unfortunately. Other people, get a lot of stuff, but I don't know. For me, it's pretty quiet.
Okay. Are those all the buildings that you're able to go to?
For the paranormal, yes. Now, during Paracon, to accommodate the size of, the crowd we get, like thousands of people, they do tend to open up different areas, just so we can kind of split people up and have enough room for everybody. So, in the past, we've opened Assembly, which was the original Pennhurst auditorium. There's a stage in there, and then there's a second floor. Because back in those days, they would actually have performers come for the patients. They'd have like little concerts and things like that. So the performers would stay in those rooms upstairs. So we opened that up as another event space. So we could put the tables in there. They host the Paracon dinner in there and Q&A. We have the celebrities up on stage. Industry was just recently opened as well. The basement and first floor we have access to. So that's a new one for us. We're still learning about that building. Not a lot of stories yet about that one.
Okay. That I hadn't even know that there had been buildings tore down. I am my knowledge is patchy, as you've probably figured out, and I'm just picking it up as I find specials or YouTube shows or articles. And different investigators have their own preferences, so they only tell about the certain parts that interested them most.
Hmm.
What
Yeah,
part of
understandable.
the you said that there was new stuff that you keep finding out all the time. What was some of the newer things you learned about the building? Well, building.
Um, Maybe not so much like the buildings, but I know like some of the newer things that I've heard is, or like one of them is, um, when the place was opened, one of the residents ran away, like actually managed to run and get off property and somehow got into town, um, and was able to get a job, secure like a little like one room apartment above somebody's garage or something like that, like something similar to that. And basically was able to live, work, and function as a normal person in society for I think it was like 2 months, you know, and until they finally found him and they made him go back to Pennhurst. And I was just like, oh my God, like, can you imagine this person escaping and having a nice life and being told, like, no, you got to go back there? Like that. I mean, that broke my heart, hearing that. But yeah, I'd never heard that story before. So that
I
was,
can the crestfallen and the pit in his stomach and the I imagine there was tears and a fight.
oh, I can imagine. But yeah, like he was able to prove, like, look, I can do this, and they wouldn't let him. I mean, and I get it. Like that's how they were back then. If you were different in any way, physically, mentally, they, you know, that's just what they unfortunately did, and it's sad. But yeah, again, like I got to really think.
I don't
Also
want
found
to
out, yeah, that
imagine.
there's. I'm sorry, what?
I said I don't want to imagine my grandmother was able to live and have a good life as a schizophrenic person and still hold down a job helping others in a nursing home.
Right.
And that alone would have you put in asylum back then.
Oh yeah. Um. Yeah, a lot of. Geez, I'd probably put it, because I'm not all there sometimes, and like even things such as like ADHD now and autism, things that are treatable and have adaptation devices or anything like that nowadays. Think about that. A lot of our children today would be probably locked away. And it's sad.
Yeah, they'd have
Um,
to fight me.
right? Yeah, over my dead body. But yeah. Um, I guess. I mean, just little stuff too. Like I had found out that there were actually like 3 fires that broke out at Pennhurst over the years. One was in the Mayflower third floor, I think in the 30s. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. I believe the other one was in dietary, because above the old dietary building, there were little apartments, and then that was for staff members. And so there was one up there, and then one in Devon, which actually, if you look, you can still see the charred like ceiling from where, because those buildings are meant to withstand fire. So you can still see like the charred marks on the cement walls. So pretty interesting. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I knew that one because you could see it. I said, but I didn't know about the other two fires.
Have you ever slept overnight there in any of the buildings?
Oh yeah, yeah, a couple times. Um, Couple, what was it, 3 years ago? I was doing a weekend there. Like I was working Friday night, Saturday night, doing Publix, and then got asked to do a private on Sunday night. Now here's one thing: I live 2 hours away from Pennhurst.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I said, well, I'm just gonna drive back 3 days in a row. I said, is there any way I can, just kind of hang out somewhere and sleep? And they're like, yeah, use Mayflower because it does, it has an alarm, cameras, all that stuff. I said, that's fine. I feel safe in there. And yeah, just pretty much spent the weekend there by myself. It was pretty
Did
interesting.
anything wake you up?
No, thank God, because I had a talk with them when I went in there. There is a couch in there, so I brought like sheets and stuff. So I was putting my sheet down on the sofa there, and I heard a noise, and I turned around. I said, "Okay, listen up." I said, "I'm gonna be spending a night or two here." I said, "I won't bother you. You don't bother me." I said, "Don't grab me during the night. Don't pull my sheet off. Don't do nothing." uh, so I think they listened.
Yeah, that is. There's so many things I want to ask you, but it some of it seems like repetitive, and other things I'm like I'm trying to figure out what things would be a good, because I know we have like 10 more minutes left, but what experiences are you like bursting to say, hey, this happened to me while I was at this place, or this happened to me and it changed my outlook on how I do these things?
Like I said, I told you the big one with the light, Skippy and the pipe and all that. Like that one kind of, I don't know if you say open my eyes, but it just, sometimes you have more questions than answers. And you start to think, well, okay, so you start to think of everything you know about the paranormal. And it's like, okay, whenever you see on TV, like, oh, this was thrown, or whatever, you start to think, well, how come people are rarely ever actually hit by these objects? Like you never see somebody, getting a wrench to their forehead. But so you start to think, well, how do they see in the afterlife? So it starts to make you question, okay, if they're throwing things, but it's barely missing you, or whatever, you start to think, like, are they seeing differently in the realm that they're in? Um, I don't know. So, you try to start asking questions about that. Um, I even posed that question on my page, like, if you could ask them one question, what would it be? And I had a lot of good responses. Um, you know, things like that. Like, how is your vision, and different things like that. So that was the big one for me. That started me really starting to question, how it all works, how they see, how they feel.
Do you feel like time moves differently in the, I guess, uh, realm or side that they're at?
I do feel in a way that, yeah, their time is a lot different from ours, obviously. I mean, there's times where I've said, "Is it morning?" And they're like, "No." Or I'll say, "Is it morning or night?" And they'll go, "Night," and yeah, it is. So it's like, where do you go from there? How do you kind of elaborate on there? But again, is it different for them because, how we're all different and our perception is different in each person? So is that kind of like how it is too? There's just so much like, you know, mental gymnastics that you go through in the paranormal. Just trying to understand it all.
What do you want investigators to know most? If you gave a new investigator advice, what should they know before walking in and trying?
Um, I would say start small. You might watch these shows and you see all the big equipment and the cameras and the this and that. Start small. Start with yourself. Your body is one of the biggest indicators in the paranormal. When they say, "Oh, I feel goosebumps," that is usually one of the biggest indicators that something is near you. You're having that static reaction to the energy in the air. So that could be paranormal. If you start to feel sick or dizzy, something can be affecting you. Something could be near you. Again, the whole energy shift thing, and energy's moving around you, can make you feel kind of off balance. A lot of times, me myself, and I've actually finally come across a couple other people that have the same thing. It's like I'll start getting like really itchy, like in one area, if it's like on my right side or it's just my arm, and I'm like, so I start thinking like, am I being touched or somebody next to me or whatever? So I say use your body. If you start feeling things that you don't typically feel, or something that's just off, start to think about it in your head. Like, again, debunk, say, okay, is there any breezes? Obviously, is it, this or that? But, and again, if you're walking, you start feeling something or a pull to a certain direction, go with it because you never know what'll happen if you just follow it. Because I do think that a lot of people have the ability to sense these things and feel things. It's just they don't really notice it or, realize what it is. So, this kind of gives them an opportunity to play with that, and explore their sensitivity levels and really hone in on those feelings. Yeah, again, be patient. And again, with the equipment, if you want to bring a recorder, recorders are great to start out with. They're relatively inexpensive, a little digital recorder. A lot of times, I know people are kind of on cell phones, but people have, including me, caught EVPs right on your phone, voices, even photographs. Take photographs with your phone. Like I told you the story about the shadow people in the tunnel. You never know what you're gonna see. Orbs. I mean, we won't get into that whole thing, but just be cautious about your orbs. But yeah, start simple, start small, and you don't have to be flashy, or anything like that. Just go with your gut, enjoy yourself. That's the big thing. Be open-minded. Don't kind of go in with this like tough attitude or, so like I said, I think what you bring to it is what you're going to get out of it.
And I know this is a touchy subject, But don't go in automatically thinking they're demons.
Exactly.
That is a scare tactic just to get views, is my thought process on it.
Right. Yes. And that's, again, I said that in the beginning, kind of, even if you hear a growl, like, it's not, 9 times out of 10, it's probably not a demon.
And
Like, you got to remember that, if a patient is nonverbal, how do you think they're going to sound when they're trying to make, verbalizations? They're going to, so always try to keep that in mind, that just because you hear something or feel something, it's not a demon.
oh yeah, it's the nursing home where my sister had worked at on the mountain. At the very beginning, they let them bring their pets, and they may have passed away, but some of them never left. You can still see a cat and a dog there. And there's
Oh,
even a little boy there, and they don't know why or how he became to be there, since the building had been a nursing home since it was built.
oh wow. Yeah, see
So,
that. I see that a lot too. People ask other people, like, that work in a facility, like, well, do you have like paranormal experiences? And like, yeah, they'll say, yeah, yeah, I'll just be working, and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. Mm.
where do you want people to find you, or do you want people to come see you on the internet, or to come find you at Pennhurst?
I do have my own page for Pennhurst, but I've kind of branched out, and I do want to include my other investigations and things like that. Nothing flashy. I do try to put as much photographic or EVP evidence on there as I can. I mean, I'm constantly going through recorders. Well, with jobs and kids and everything else, it's like I'm trying to get there. But I do try to put up as much as I can. A lot of it's photographs. Um, I know there are people out there, though, that do like to see the buildings and the campus and stuff. So I like sharing it for that reason. And um, so yeah, some fun stuff that maybe in between. I'm trying to get more back into it now. I kind of let it go. But it's Jenni Lynn, Pennhurst, and Paranormal Investigator on Facebook.
Okay, I do have that one where links go. I did not know if you had like a YouTube channel or an Instagram or another place that you like
Oh,
to post.
mm, no, I'm not like a big TikTok star or nothing. So I just keep it small, keep it quaint.
Oh,
But
that is
yeah,
awesome.
if anybody wants to come down to Pennhurst, yeah, you can go to our website, pennhurstasylum.com. You can, like I said, you can get history tours. We're offering photography tours this year. I think there was a couple posted. Um, Paranormal, we have publics and privates, and we have our big Paracon coming up in May. Y'all are not going to want to miss this. The lineup so far is crazy, and I don't think they're done announcing who's coming. So, if you're interested in that, stay tuned, because they just announced Annabelle's coming.
Oh,
The real
wow.
Annabelle doll. Yeah, they're bringing the real Annabelle doll and a lot of other items from the Warrens Museum. So this is going to be interesting for sure. So you can get tickets for that. And yeah, of course, our haunted attraction is a big draw at Halloween time. Fun time. Amazing energy. Our sets are amazing. Our actors are amazing. I mean, all around, just yeah. Check out our website if you want to come visit. And if you do a paranormal overnight, you might see me there.
Dude, can you help me find a way to get a hold of some of your haunters at your haunted attractions you have on our other show, Painter's Haunted Secret? so we can
Oh,
talk to them too?
yeah, message me and I'll get you in touch with a few of them.
Okay, that'd be amazing. We'd love to talk to them and find out about their experience as well. That is our one of our alternate shows, Painter's Haunted Secrets, where we learn about haunters and their haunted attractions and experiences.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. I mean, I do that too. I do acting from time to time. But yeah.
Oh, you're a haunter? Ooh.
I'm probably like B-list, but I only fill in, from time to time, or I'll do like our little special, like we just had a Valentine's Day haunted attraction. So,
Oh, that is
we
awesome.
don't do paranormal in February because we have our winter break. So I'll do the acting to kind of, have a little fun on the side. And it's amazing. It's so much fun. So much fun. Oh my gosh.
That is awesome. Dude, the more I find out about you, the cooler you are. So, yeah.
You gotta come
Okay.
up. You gotta come up from Texas.
I want to come. Do you have any idea how bad I want to come have an investigation? And now that I know that there's like haunted attraction, I didn't even know there was a haunted attraction. That's like not well known.
At Pennhurst? Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah,
famous for, really.
I on my side, I usually just see like the experiences people have or their investigations. But then again, I've made my feet a little bit neat because I am published for writing ghost stories.
Oh, okay.
And I read books like Hans Holster's and Richard Eastat and stuff like that to learn more. So, yeah, okay, cool. Okay, thank you so much for coming, Jenny.
Oh,
It's so
thank
weird
you.
to say my name to somebody else.
So they said the Jennies, we're taking over tonight.
Oh yeah, dude,
But
you
yeah, I
have been
mean,
amazing.
but my words, I know if I'm all jumbled, because like I said, there's so much in this brain about Pennhurst. I can go on for days. So, like, I'm sorry for your viewers if they're like, "What is this girl talking
If
about?"
if my viewers dislike it, there's a problem because that was the whole entire point of the episode to learn about Pennhurst and your experiences. So, thank you for coming. Thank you guys for watching. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have. And you're like the second paranormal investigator I've ever had on the show. So
Oh,
thank you.
well, yes, it was an honor. Thank you so much.
I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Good
And
night.
this has been amazing.